Most people think being a supervillain is about the insurance premiums or the inevitable concussion you get from a teenager in spandex. For Alexei Sitsevich, it was worse. He wasn't just a villain, he was a punchline. Imagine being a walking tank who can level a city block, only to have the entire world agree that you have the cognitive processing power of a toaster. Because Alexei was the dumb one, he was relegated to the bottom of the villain food chain. Therefore, when he actually manages to save a girl, it doesn't lead to a heroic moment. It leads to a midlife crisis. Stella didn't just break his heart, she pointed out the one wall he couldn't run through, his own inadequacy. He realized he was trapped in a prison made of thick skin and a double-digit IQ, but Alexei didn't want to be a better person. He wanted to be a smarter monster. This is Flowers for Rhino. It's a story about why being a genius is actually a death sentence and why sometimes the smartest thing you can do is choose to be an idiot. Alexei tracks down a scientist who specializes in increasing efficiency. Basically, a guy who hacks brain. Because the scientist had already turned a chimp into a fan of Tchaikovsky, Alexei figures he's the right man for the job. The scientist points out that the suit is permanent. He tells Alexei he's just a small-time muscle man. Therefore, Alexei has to beg. He doesn't want money. He doesn't want power. He wants dignity. The operation is performed without anesthetic. Because Alexei is stupid, he wants to watch the whole thing to make sure they don't mess around. It's the kind of logic only a man with a room temperature IQ would use, but it works. Logic check number 1. We need to talk about the writing here. Usually when a character gets smart, they just start using bigger words. But Peter Milligan writes this like a horror story. Because Alexei's brain is evolving too fast, he doesn't just learn to solve the maze, he realizes the maze is a waste of his time. Therefore, he just walks through the walls. He's still the Rhino, but now he's a Rhino with a philosophy. Within weeks, the horned dolt is gone. In his place is a man who breaks into prison just to recruit a more efficient class of criminal. He's not interested in robbing banks for chump change anymore, because he can now see the systemic flaws in the city's infrastructure. He decides to become the CEO of crime. He starts funding the arts. He fixes the inner cities. He writes a novel that critics call breathtaking. He even wins over Stella. Because he can now speak in iambic quatrain and discuss the merits of Wittgenstein, she's obsessed with him. But here is the consequence of that growth. Because he's so smart, the world starts to look small. Hamlet is half-witted. The law is a minor inconvenience. Even Spider-Man isn't a threat anymore. He's just a nuisance that Rhino handles with a court injunction. If you're enjoying this breakdown of a man becoming too smart for his own good, consider subscribing. It's a free way to support the channel and ensures you don't end up like the Rhino, trapped in a suit of your own ignorance. Anyway, back to the God complex. Logic check number 2. The scientist explains that the intelligence doesn't stop. It's a runaway train, because the chimp became too clever. It lost interest in everything. Music, art, even life itself. It realized everything was a series of predictable patterns. Therefore, Alexei isn't just becoming a genius. He's becoming a nihilist. Stella asks if he still loves her. Because his brain is now operating on a level we can't comprehend, he describes love as a paternalistic hiccup and a genetic twitch. He's not being mean, he's just being accurate. He has evolved past the need for human connection. This is the peak of the story's cynicism. Rhino gives Spider-Man all the data on his criminal empire. He doesn't want it, he doesn't care. He then creates an algebraic equation that reveals the secret identities of every hero in the city. Peter is terrified. He thinks this is the end. But because Rhino is so far beyond good and evil, the information is useless to him. He tells Peter that all the costumes and the crime fighting are utterly futile. He's not a villain anymore. He's a god who is bored of the universe. He calculates the odds of life after death, 1.3%. He's looking for oblivion, because he can see the Gehenna of links and the causalities of every atom. The world has lost its beauty. It's just noise. Alexei realizes that being the smartest man in the world is just a different kind of prison. It's lonelier than the suit ever was. Therefore, he makes a choice. He asks the scientist to reverse the operation. But here is the kicker. He doesn't just want to be back to normal. He asks the doctor to make him a little more stupid than he was before, just to be safe, because if he's dumb enough, he'll never have to worry about the Gehenna of Lynx again. He's back. He's crashing through walls. He sees a book by Shakespeare and throws it in the trash. He says he gets a grip and remembers who he is. So, is Flowers for Rhino a good story? No, it's a devastating one. It's a cynical masterpiece that suggests that the only way to find happiness in a world this messy is to be too thick-skulled to notice the mess. Alexei traded his soul for a brain, realized the brain was a curse, and then traded the brain for a lie. He's back in the suit. He's back to being a punchline. But at least now he's not smart enough to know how much that should hurt. Sometimes the horn is the only thing protecting the head.